Boogie Nights in anticipation for Paul Thomas Anderson's next film. Let's chat about one of his all-time greats and masterpieces with special guest Ryan Bailey. How you doing, Ryan? Welcome to the show.
Feel my heat. I'm doing amazing that I get to talk about this film with you guys today. So I've been looking forward to this all week.
Yeah. We're in the PTA mood with one battle after another coming out very soon. We saw that. It's amazing.
Yeah, I was so upset you guys got to see it early. I emailed you guys. I was like, that is very upsetting to me because Paul Thomas Anderson has meant so much to me since Boogie Nights came. Like, I remember seeing this as a kid at Camel View Theater in Tempe, Arizona. And like those filmmakers when you're a kid where you're just like, oh, this must be what like people seeing like Taxi Driver or Raging Bull with Scorsese, where you're like, oh, I get this. This is an artist. I'll go anywhere with this man. And I've gone everywhere in the course of his filmography.
I think the first time I saw Boogie Nights, it's hard to remember, but I got really into PTA after There Will Be Blood came out, started doing Netflix by mail, and I watched all
7 discs at a time.
Kids, there used to be Netflix by mail.
Yeah,
you wouldn't
DVD,
understand.
not even a 4K, not a Blu-ray, a DVD.
I believe Boogie Nights is one of those in the early basement dungeon that we had, the film dungeon.
Anthony's movie dungeon.
And then when I remember seeing it and being like, this is different from anything I'd seen before, and it compounded the respect that I had for PTA. And what's great about when new films come out and they get a lot of press and a lot of attention online is people will watch sometimes their older films. So hopefully a lot of young viewers will watch things like Boogie Nights and Magnolia and Punch Drunk Love and even Heart 8 to get familiarized with the filmmaker to see where he's come from.
And now Ryan,
yeah,
we appreciate you being on the show.
I appreciate
Ryan has a great film podcast as well, So Bad It's Good, all over the place, right?
Yeah, I mean, listen, it focuses a lot on reality television and pop culture. Now, I have a huge love of movies, but my love of reality TV also informs my love of movies and vice versa, and watching reality TV, you really pay attention to story structure. And those are things, like think about a movie like Boogie Nights, where there is a rotating cast of at 20 characters.
Yeah.
That's a lot of reality television, is following like little minute things, or watching Philip Seymour Hoffman as Scotty in the background.
Oh my
That's
God.
what I do with reality television, is like, look at that character in the background. You can watch these things multiple different viewings. And a lot of people don't have a lot of respect for reality television, which I totally understand. But I think there is, they do inform each other. And I think the sense of humor of reality television is the same sense of humor that you see in movies like Boogie Nights, or even the over-dramatization of Magnolia.
Yeah, and what's funny, I remember seeing a Tom Hardy interview earlier this year where he's talking about how he loves reality TV, and the interview's like, wow, he's like, because like I pull a character beat from that person. Like,
yes!
That's like, these are real characters. Like, I'm going to use
It's like
that
watching
for...
someone on the street.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, Philip Seymour Hoffman did a great interview with Inside the Actors Studio back in the day, where it was like, people will say these things can't happen in movies, it's too crazy. And it's like, I challenge you to go sit in a subway. You will see more behavior and humanity and weird behavior in just opening your eyes. Yeah. And I think that's
go to
what
Walmart.
Yeah, but that's everything in Boogie Nights is so that just every character, you can watch this film multiple times and just pay attention to a different character in the background, and you will see that they fully committed. And that's what I love. Paul Thomas Anderson seems like he makes his actors so comfortable to commit and to be this part and to imagine as big as they possibly can.
But I guarantee you, I mean, I don't know, but I'm sure that they had some input, because John C. Reilly, his character in this film, I think that he lets great actors, help create the characters.
Yeah.
Because John C. Reilly is a magician and a musician. So I think that obviously he saw what Riley's great at, what he's passionate about, and then infused that into the character you're writing for this actor. So I think that with his great collaborators, especially the early day collaborators like Riley, like Hoffman, Phil Baker Hall, all these guys and gals that he worked with a lot, Julianne Moore, I'm sure they helped hone into the characters to make them so different and unique, because, and this is like in PTA's Altman-esque era, the huge ensembles, intersecting storylines. Magnolia was going to be his big magnum opus after this, with a gigantic story, even bigger than Boogie Nights in scale, because all the pieces were separate, but connected. Whereas this one, it's like a family dynamic, which is so special. But every character, like, it's a great point, is very unique, very different. They have a certain style of dress. Whether you look at Don Cheadle or Philip Seymour Hoffman or Burt Reynolds or anyone in this film, they really feel so different. They don't speak like anyone else, and it comes to great writing and collaborating with actors in an amazing way.
Yeah, think about Luis Guzman. In
Yeah,
this film. Like,
everyone's good.
I mean, I'm a former theater kid. You do in high school theater. This is the spirit of high school theater, of everybody kind of just pushing it to the limit and trying things. And, you know, top to bottom in this film, it still works. I mean, like, I was rewatching it yesterday, which that's why I look exhausted, because I
watched it last night,
2
too.
hour and 40-minute movie. But the first 52 seconds of this movie is a black screen.
Yeah, it's incredible because
I thought my thing was, I thought my Hulu was, or whatever I was watching it on, I was like, is this broken? And I forgot that that's how it starts.
It's freaking awesome. It's the Grabber's Mask in the Snow. This is a great poster from our friends at movieposters.com. Inside this amazing light box they sell as well. This is double print, so it's a movie theater quality. It's projected with the light behind it. It looks incredible. Use our code Raiders10 at checkout today to get 10% off your order at movieposters.com. And our affiliate link will get you will get us a commission of every purchase made from movieposters.com. So use the code, use our link. It's a win-win for everybody. You get an amazing poster. Just quick background after that, because it's a great point you bring that up, because this movie starts like you think of the nightclub scene,
the wonder,
in the great disco music, and how engaging and escapist it is, and it's exciting and fun and full of life and characters. But the 50-ish seconds of blackness with this like sort of melancholy tune, which is a great way to kind of foreshadow what's going to happen to our characters as they reach hit rock bottom at some point.
That melody is the bookend of the film.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But quick background on Boogie Nights. 1997 this came out, guys, and it was originally a short film that PTA made when he was a teenager, the Dirk Diggler stories when he was 17 years old.
Have you watched that?
I've seen bits of it.
I've seen
pretty
bits
funny.
of it, yeah.
And so it was a story he's been trying to tell for so long, and eventually he got to make it as a sophomore effort after making Hard 8. And when he went into this film, he had a lot of, you know, kind of vengeance to unleash, because Hard 8 kind of got taken away from him from a studio perspective, and he really wanted to come in with like a fire under his ass and make an incredible film. And it's such an impressive feat because there's so many characters, such a great story. It tells a story of, we have a rising star in the porn industry played by Mark Wahlberg, but a great ensemble of, Anthony said, family members, or like a traveling circus in a way, like all these characters who all fit together in this world. We have Burt Reynolds playing the porn director. We have the financer. We have all the actors and all the extra characters. And it tells all of their stories interconnected. They all go on this crazy arc of hitting the peak of their careers and getting rich and famous in the industry, but then they all fall down from grace, except for really Don Cheadle's character has a better story.
He started out already falling.
Yeah,
I mean,
he already fell.
but you know, he'd already fallen.
The
right?
original
You know?
cut, though, his marriage fades away and disappears. But they all hit rock bottom at some point, which is really interesting.
That's the 80s.
And then they all come back together by the end of the film, whoever survived. What's crazy is it's this movie's like different kinds of movies. It's great comedy, drama, but then like the most berserker third act action movie you'll ever see.
And this movie is so Scorsese coded. This movie is like if you take Robert Altman and Scorsese in the 90s and mash them together, because Altman-esque with the ensemble and the intersecting connections, and then the Scorsese filmmaking of the whipping camera, rotating around characters. I mean, there's amazing shots where just when Burt Reynolds picks up a phone, the camera starts low, pushes in, jumps up, grabs the phone, and pans back up to Reynolds as he answers it. Like the movement of the camera is in the inserts. The insert shots, the editing, the sound effects, the sound designs, all the flashing bulbs whenever someone's taking a photograph.
Yeah.
It's so Scorsese coded. I love it.
Imagine, like Hard 8 obviously was not a box office success, right? Imagine like this is done with New Line Cinema. Shout out to New Line. Michael DeLuca, who he is now at Warner Brothers, and they did One Battle After Another together. And think about being this filmmaker, not a box office hit, but a lot of promise shown in that movie. And he tells New Line that like, hey, I'm going to do this. It's got to be NC-17. And it's going to be 3 hours. And he said it's not going to make a lot of money. And so they were like, we'll give you one of those. And he was like, okay, I think it's a challenge to make an R-rated film, and I'll do that. And then he ended up making a 2 hour and 35-minute film. So he was able to do both of those things. But just the balls on Paul Thomas Anderson at that point in your career to be that confident in what you do, and then to follow it up with Magnolia, which was 3.5 hours, which is also like he gets final cut on these things. And I just think that kind of belief in yourself and your writing and what you visualize is something that just another like hats off to this man.
Yeah, and he's an incredible writer. I think that's one of the great strengths of him. And we have so many great actors in this film. We have Mark Wahlberg, a very early role from him, just being a hot shot in Hollywood, this rapper, singer turned actor who just delivers with Dirk Diggler. Julianne Moore, a very nuanced, complex character, Oscar nominated here in this movie. Burt Reynolds, old Hollywood, an absolute legend. Puts one of his best performances in his career. John C. Reilly, who worked with PTA and is a very close friend of him for years. Awesome in this film. Don Cheadle, Philip Seymour Hoffman, like every movie he's in, steals every bit of screen time and every frame of film he can. Heather Graham, William H. Macy also have great side roles.
We just watched The Long Walk with Cooper Hoffman.
Oh, I really want to see
and
that.
also
It's
love
great.
Licorice Pizza. You watch this movie and you're like, oh my God, he looks so much like his dad because he's about that age. I would say when they made Hard Eight is probably the age Cooper Hoffman is right now. But when you watch Philip Seymour Hoffman in this film, he's such a good performer. And in Hard Eight, he played the asshole, cocky craps player, and he did that so well. But then he does as opposite of a performance as you can think of. Someone who's very strange, unique. He's not confident. He's a little bizarre. He's insecure. And he becomes obsessed with Dirk, but this behavior from
everyone
Can
does.
I kiss? Can I
yeah,
kiss
can I
you,
kiss
Dirk?
you? The way he speaks, the way he moves, the way he sucks on the pen on the clipboard.
Yeah.
Everything about it is so incredible.
That's what I say about, like, I always talk about his role in this movie because it's like there are no small parts, they're just small actors, is that you can watch this man eat a piece of cake in the background.
Yes.
Like, as you do.
Yeah.
And you're just like fixated. But at the same time, he's not being like, he's not purposely pulling focus. He's just so committed to this character. And I always think about like vanity in a degree. There's no vanity in his performance. He's out there with his belly sticking out with the tightest clothes imaginable, looking as idiotic as possible. And I just, we lost an amazing, amazing actor.
Yeah, and this movie's got so much substance. It's not just about the porn industry, which was kind of like the bastard taboo child of Hollywood in this era. I mean, we have so many other plot points we have sequences or storylines of film versus tape. It's turned to videotape, and things are changing in terms of the economy of filmmaking.
What real cinema is.
But also it's a great filmmaking movie from a large standpoint. And we have great characters that are all connected in a family, like this traveling circus family that you could imagine were in something like that. But like they all found each other in this industry, and then we have the star who has something that everybody wants, whether it's a man that's envious of his endowment and what he's got packing in those jeans, or just the rise in this lightning rod of excitability and this dunce character who's just such a meathead, such a dummy, Dirk Diggler, Eddie, but he has something everyone wants. And there's something about giving like the dumbest character in your movie the biggest gift in the industry and seeing what happens. It's kind of fun.
And what makes Dirk and Eddie work is he's a sweet guy.
Yeah, there's such a pure innocence to how Mark Wahlberg plays him.
He's polite. He's happy to be there. He's extremely friendly. So when his fall from grace happens, you really feel how dark he's gone because he's so kind. And the character only works because of how purely nice he is. And he's suffered, but he's just happy to be as good of a friend and performer and do the best he can. That's why I think the role works. And Wahlberg tapped into that so well. How polite he is, how kind he is to other people, the way he speaks to people. He's just so affable. And so when he falls down that dark hole, you really feel it.
His mom's an asshole.
Yeah.
But think about it, like his mom, and that's another thing, like his mom kicks him out of the house, and the stock and the lighting that they're using is kind of dark and dingy, and he gets kicked out of the house and goes to Jack's house, and all of a sudden it's light, it's bright, it's cheery, the music kicks in, and I just love that differentiation because then we have that one long shot where you don't even see the cut until they go, like the lady jumps into the pool.
Yeah,
Do you
the
remember
pool
that?
party,
and then
yeah.
you can kind of see where they cut it, but it's just such a difference coming from this pain and going to the family that you choose, because they make it really known that the pornography in this movie, it's not sex, it's a job. It's a job to these people. But what it really is like you said, this traveling circus family that's where he has found his his actual purpose in life.
Performative. It's something he always wanted to be a part of. That's why he takes a bus an hour from Torrance all the way to the Valley of Los Angeles.
It's like working at MIT, just cleaning floors at MIT.
Oh,
I
how do you like them apples?
Yeah, Dirk Diggler and I guess Will Hunting aren't so different after
You
all.
choose to.
Will Hunting also had a very large penis.
Oh yeah, he did. Oh yeah, he did.
So what's crazy is you talk about how the original, like, PTA wanted to make a 3-hour movie here, and the director's cut that he was fighting with in post-production for a while with the studios was so long, and they had sequences of his parents who actually get killed in the movie.
Really?
Yeah, and so
Really?
his
You know how
parents-
they got killed?
I can't remember how they got killed, but his parents die in the original cuts, and you got to see
Wow.
more of when Don Cheadle. He obviously he doesn't run away, but he gets engaged, he gets married, and him and the other girl are gonna have a baby before the big shootout at the donut shop. Their marriage falls apart too, but I like
Him and Jesse, like, they got divorced?
Their marriage falls apart
my
at the end of the movie.
God.
So like everyone originally had a trajectory of hitting rock bottom or dying.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting. But I like what he did with Don Cheadle's character, where he basically, on his own accord, Buck, he's trying to find his identity in this world, always with the different looks. He doesn't quite fit in, even though he's a good performer. Jack calls him an excellent actor. But then he leaves because no one respects him. He doesn't really know who he is in this world. Runs away with her. They get married and have a baby. And then the donut shop, I think, is one of my favorite sequences because it's the robbery. Everyone in the donut shop gets killed except for Buck, who's wearing all white, gets covered in blood from the gunshots, and then is
The money.
the money. He gets a choice: take the money or just leave without the money. And he takes the money to start a business. In a way, for me, when I watch this new edit of PTA, it's sort of a storyline where Buck, he is sort of rewarded of his own accord getting out of the insanity when he can, and like he's an angel now. He's wearing all white, and he just got a gift to start a new life. He's like the only one that got out.
That's interesting.
Clean.
That's wild.
Yeah.
I love Riley in this movie so much, and as I was watching it, Reed, it felt like his character in Step Brothers if he started having sex
Yeah.
as a teenager. Because in Step Brothers he's a virgin and it's like the same character, but like he started hooking up with girls when he was like 13.
How much you bench? How much? 350.
Jack,
You,
so you live on the streets?
You see,
Jack said you live on the street.
you see Star Wars? People say I look like Han Solo. Yeah.
I love when they're just
You
talking.
almost want to see the outtakes on those because
Yeah.
sometimes I'll even watch it and like I can't help myself to start laughing. So I'm like, how did they, in certain scenes, or even like singing that song, feel the heat? Like how do or even when he's like, "You got the touch," and then they flash over to Riley and he's dancing in the booth, and it's like so committed. I was like, God, how do you keep it together?
They must
on
have been
this?
cracking up the whole time during those scenes. How do you not? It's so
Probably.
funny.
And he's a great character, Reed, because he's so funny, so likable, but he's so full of shit. And he's immediately like testing Dirk as soon as he gets there, like trying to be superior to him in every way
Let me
possible.
show you what you did wrong.
Because he's clearly like, he's wildly insecure, but he needs to be like the toughest guy, the coolest guy at the party. And he lies. But there's no way he's squatting 350. There's no way he's benching
He's so
that much.
skinny, no way.
It's so
Yeah.
funny, but then because Dirk becomes such a star, he just latches onto that. So it seems like he's latching onto wherever he can.
Well, it's because Reed's not like an alpha, and so when Dirk shows up, he's like, oh, I can be his sidekick. But since Dirk is the star, he is the guy. Once the new guy shows up, that's why he's so negative towards him.
new kid in town.
Yeah, whereas if he was like Reed, he would have been like nice and welcoming, but Dirk was like, I'm the guy, I'm the show. I don't want anyone else stealing my thunder. Reed, you can contrast, actually was pretty modest for this new guy to come and take all the spotlight and welcoming to him. So that's why I think Reed's such a great character. He welcomed Dirk with open arms and became friends with him, never became envious of his success.
What's the name? Burt Lanther?
Brock Landers.
Brock Landers.
yeah.
Oh my God, I love the Brock Landers bit, and then the partner, Chest something.
Chess Rockwell.
Chest Rockwell.
Those are great names.
I think that's just such a fun sequence, but I could watch the entire movie with just the two of them, like going
Yeah.
off and
Oh
doing
yeah,
that.
I mean that's the spirit of I think PTA's filmmaking is that you can sense the fun that they're having making it, even when it gets serious.
It gets very serious. I
Yeah.
mean, I think William H. Macy's character is obviously some of the grimmest aspects of the film. And there's so many great wonders in this movie, but one of the best wonders is when he does end up killing his wife. New Year's Eve, it's about to hit 1980,
yeah.
and we're going through the party. It seems like a celebration. Then he shows up, sees his wife is having sex with another guy again, and then we follow him to his car. He pulls out a gun, and then what I love so much is like the character behavior is so realistic. He locks his car. Like, he's about to kill someone, and he's about to murder suicide, but he still locks his car door. Like, that's such great human behavior to do that. This is little details like that, and then he goes and does it, and it becomes the darkest part of the film. But man, it lulls you into this sleep with the party, and then that happens. This movie has so much weight to it.
Yeah.
He can write any kind of character, I think, PTA, because if you think about every character in this movie has such great desire and wants. And then you look at a movie like Punch Drunk Love, and Barry, what exactly does he want? He doesn't know what he wants in a lot of ways until he discovers it with a relationship and love and to be loved. And then in this film, you have so many characters. Dirk Diggler wants to be a star. He's so vulnerable, but he knows he has something special. He's shy and naive, but he wants to be a star. Then we have Amber, played by Julianne Moore. She abandoned her child, basically. I abandoned my child! And she wants to be a mother as well as she wants Dirk, like this new young hot boy who, in a way, she has this weird, intimate, motherly relationship with.
She's not able to mother her actual child, so this is somebody that she can mother, and even though there are sexual connotations within that, there is still just an overall motherly vibe.
Yeah. How about the shot in the diner when Jack's doing the proposal with the four of them at the table, and then PTA, while Jack is talking, takes the camera and he pans it so that Julianne Moore's isolated looking at Dirk, and then he pans it just to Dirk, and he isolates them to hone in on how obsessed she already is with him.
Yeah.
Which then after the 1980s section, when he's all like coked out, when they're about to film that scene, they go from him and Thomas Jane, and then they pan over to Julianne Moore talking to the new kid.
The new
and
Dirk,
then that throws Mark Wahlberg completely off. It's just those little moments.
And then, and Jack, he's got a great desire. He's a director, but he wants to be taken seriously. He wants to make a new kind of movie,
This is the one I want to be remembered
And then
for,
what's so ironic is his movies are terrible in terms of like plot and story and everything like that. Because they hype it up so much. And one of my favorite scenes, I think the best scene in the movie is Dirk's first day on set. I think it's an incredible sequence. But then you see the dialogue they're reading and like the delivery. You're like, this is terrible. But Jack, his dream is to make a special new kind of movie. John C. Reilly Reed's, he's just kind of a sidekick trying to figure out what he wants. He wants to follow his ridiculous passions as well as just have fun, I think. Buck, like I said, he's trying to find identity. He's got a new look every couple of years. He tries the cowboy look that doesn't go well. He tries like an original kind of weird, like hip-hop look that in the 80s, then a different look in the 90s. So he's always trying to find a new look.
It was like the Rick James look.
The Rick James look, yes. Scotty wants Dirk. That's his greatest desire.
He'll dress however,
Dirk's gratification.
I'll buy a car to impress you.
And then Heather Graham's character, Roller Girl, she's a great character too because she, ironically, the reverse of Amber Waves, she wants a mother. She never had a mother, and that's why she asks Amber to be her mother.
Oh, such a good scene.
William H. Macy wants normalcy. He just wants a wife that's not going to sleep with other people and be embarrassed constantly. So every character has great wants and desires.
Yeah, and Roller Girl, you can look at this film. She's obviously supporting, but you could see her as like an opposite side of the same coin as Dirk, like a female version, going through the same kinds of things, with trouble at home, comes to this place, and fits into the world of sex work very easily. It works for her, and she enjoys it, just like Dirk. But then she falls into the disillusionment as well. So I always look at Dirk and Roller Girl as being like very similar trajectories.
But think about it, like with Heather Graham's character, they're outcasts in the normal world. You know, if you go to her high school, people are making fun of her, or on the New Year's Eve segment when they're filming that, she's stomping on these were outcasts in the everyday normal world that they actually then can get together and become stars in each other's eyes. And, you know, in terms of like these making the actual movies, to your point earlier, is that it is what collaboration is. Like in that first scene when Mark's like, well, Jack, what if I rolled her over like this and this? And he's like, yeah, man, try it. That's film collaboration.
Yeah.
That's collaboration in art. So even if you're like, this is a crappy porno, they're collaborating.
Dealing with some tough shadows here.
Jack lets me block my own scenes out.
Mark Wahlberg is stepping up everybody's game on set, you know? And I love that, is that this is filmmaking at the end of the day.
And
still.
It was way ahead of its time, because now we're like, especially with Honora winning Best Picture, depicting sex work. And now these kinds of people are millionaires, like on things like OnlyFans. Back then, it wasn't socially accepted, but now it's socially celebrated. So this film was way ahead of the time, And it was a tough film to make, I'm sure. I'm sure he got a lot of pressure to maybe change things and tone it down, but he found the right producers and distributors to give him the green light to do what he wanted. But this film, I think if it came out today, would clean up awards season-wise.
But it got 3
yeah,
Oscars
it got
nominations,
Burt
right?
Reynolds
Best
screenplay,
yeah.
and then Julianne Moore.
Yeah.
I should have won screenplay. This is an amazing script.
I mean, in retrospect, truly the best role in Mark Wahlberg's career, like
Arguably,
he's
it's up
so
there,
good
yeah.
in it.
in my opinion,
He's so
like
good.
just because at that time this man had done like Renaissance Man, I think with Danny DeVito. He
did Fear.
Basketball Diaries,
Yeah.
Fear. He was great in Fear, but Basketball Diaries. DiCaprio doesn't do this movie. He gets in on the movie, and he turns out a performance that I don't think anybody was ever expecting that sort of range from the guy who did Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch. Like truly, it blew me away.
He's amazing in this movie. He really is. It's like a caricature of a character, of an archetype from like the 90s and 80s and 70s of like this guy, and he's just brilliant at it. He's so silly. He's so dumb. But
there's
everything
a real
about it,
he makes
yeah.
you believe this is a real person.
They're all real people. I mean, one of my favorite shots is when we're in Dirk's room for the first time and we just pan around his bedroom. He's just a kid.
The posters,
He's like
the Farrah Fawcett,
He's like a
and the
13-year-old
Yeah.
still. He never grew up. A lot of them never grew up. Reed's still a kid. And I think that's one of the great points of the film is, this industry may be stagnated. They're maturing into adults fully. And they maintain being kids constantly, which leads to terrible decisions with the drugs and at the end of the film, which is just absolutely an amazing sequence. But I think Mark absolutely delivers in this movie, and he's so funny and quotable and ridiculous, whether it's the karate, the outfits. Is that Lizard? No, it's Italian. It's just ridiculous. So many great line reads.
And Robert Elswit, I think, is just one of the great DPs of the last 30 years, and this is the first collaboration with him and PTA. And they went on to do Magnolia, There Will Be Blood, Inherent Vice, so many Punch and Glove. Their filmmaking together was outstanding, and he won the Oscar for There Will Be Blood. But this film is so visually stunning and visceral. I love the lighting. I love how sometimes it's over surrealist, and you get like I love the shot of when Dirk's, he's talking about his name, and then we cut to the sign blowing up in the flames. But the way the camera moves in this film, it's like he really captured this energy, especially in the Coke sequences, and it felt like Goodfellas in that part of the film, where the camera's just moving so fast, and you're feeling the panic and the anxiety and the high energy of what the characters are experiencing, but you're seeing it with the camera. And it's just unbelievable how creative they were. They really put everything into every shot of this film.
Yeah. Did you ever watch the DVD documentary about the making of Magnolia?
I don't think so.
I believe so. Yeah.
It is. I mean, it's pretty insane. Just like then he goes to this film, which is even bigger than Boogie Nights, and by the end they have to call production days because he hasn't slept in like days, and it's like at the end of the movie, like with the frog sequences and stuff like that. So it is insane to go from this to something that is more challenging with like a bunch of the same actors. He was really kind of getting his stable of people. But the more you learn about Paul Thomas Anderson, the more you want to know how he does all of this from the shooting, but also just from dealing with studios and getting the money for these things, because these are really big asks. Oh, I want to do a film about 70s porn that like goes into drug addiction, and then at the end we see his wiener. I'm not gonna. You got to see his wiener. Like, how does this man talk to studios to get that sort of trust? And you guys have seen One Battle After Another, and I hear it's like insanely good. It's a 3-hour, but like this is the biggest budget he's ever worked with in his life. And he's also, as Paul Thomas Anderson says, he's box office challenged. So like for him to say, this is what I want to do. And of course you have DiCaprio, one of, if not the biggest adult actor out there. But I always want to see how this man moves within the studios and those meetings.
I would guess because Hard Eight was really good. Like you said, it was good, but it wasn't like, oh my God, this is the best, next great filmmaker. He had the collaborations with the other actors. So I think he had Phil Baker Hall, he had Hoffman, John C. Reilly. So he already had actors on board, as well as having a great script. Boogie Nights wasn't that huge of a budget, but once you get the talent involved, you got William H. Macy, a bunch of actors interested in the Jack Horner role. I think that helps give a studio comfort to greenlight it. Magnolia was
when you get Cruise in Magnolia.
So, but Magnolia was here. He was an Oscar nominee. Boogie Nights was a cultural phenomenon at the time. So then it's easier to greenlight Magnolia. And then, I mean, Julianne Moore was already a star from her Altman roles in the 90s. So I think that in packaging the film was probably the trick because he had a great script. Actors want to be in it. That really helps sell the project.
I think the script is really important
Yeah.
because he's a very good writer. When we talk about writers and directors that do both, there aren't many great ones, and there's nothing wrong with the director who doesn't write his own screenplays. Like I think that some directors work best when they're doing other people's work. I think Fincher's in that ball game where he's a superb filmmaker, one of the best. Scorsese doesn't do that many screenwriting credits. Yeah, you're right. But they're involved with the story in the process, but they hire people who are better at writing, I think, than them. But like you have people like PTA, Tarantino, Nolan, who write everything they direct, save for, obviously, with Nolan, he did one movie that he didn't write. Insomnia. But then you have someone that's such a great storyteller and a writer like PTA, and then you combine it with the great directing chops. It's just... we don't get that many filmmakers like that and storytellers in a generation.
No, and I love that he's not an elitist in the sense of he loves everything. Like you hear him talk about other films, he'll talk glowingly about Marvel films. He'll be like, no, don't. And also, you realize through him to get anything made in this town is just so impossible. So whether you think you're watching the worst film in the world or the best film in the world, it still was a battle to get that made. And he will always say, like, listen, I don't crap on other people's film. And then his writing styles were so great because there was a period of time where he wrote for SNL. It was never credited, but he wrote, remember the Baby Bird sketch where Will Ferrell is feeding food? And that's a Paul Thomas Anderson sketch.
No way.
He loved sketch comedy so much that he went and asked to work. I believe that might be how he met his wife, Maya Rudolph.
I think he directed an episode of SNL where they met in the very early 2000s. I think that's how they linked up because he was dating... Fiona Apple in the 90s. So, but he directed he was a guest director on one episode of SNL. I think
a lot of people don't realize he was even into writing sketch comedy. Like, I feel like he thinks these are like challenges, or even adapting the Thomas Pynchon novel that turned out to be Inherent Vice.
And a lot of the scenes of this movie, they're like sketches.
2000, he was doing SNL.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
That's wild.
And it was never publicized at the time. Nobody was like, but they did do the sketch that I'm talking about. They used the Amy Mann song "Save Me" that was in Magnolia.
Gotcha.
They did like long shots on each person like he did in that movie.
Oh my God, that's so interesting.
Speaking of the long shots, the opening. Yeah. Oh my God. It's one of the best of all time. And obviously this is a huge reference and I'm sure inspiration from Goodfellas, but also Scorsese got inspiration from other films to create shots like this. You know what I mean? They weren't the first people to do these great oneers. But this one's really special because of how stylized it is. If you compare it to Goodfellas and the one in the Copacabana, we're really just following the perspective of Karen behind two characters. But this is so different where, it's just so bold, opening up on the neon sign of the title, the crane shot leading to the Steadicam. But we get such great character work from all the 7 leads in this one nightclub. And it's just so incredible the way it's intertwined and linked together, all culminating into the reveal of Dirk Diggler at the end of the group of the ensemble with Jack staring at him. And I think it's just so superb. The filmmaking, the logistics of it is the most complicated thing they shot, obviously, but it's really exciting.
I love how it ends on slow motion with Dirk Diggler. His shot, they slowed down the frame rate. Yeah. So it's like he knew that he had to single out Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah.
Everybody else, we're following them around. We're following Guzman around. We're following Roller Girl around. Riley, Reynolds. We're seeing them all. But when we get to Dirk, the frame rate slows to show this guy is special. This is the story's character.
Yeah.
And that singles him out. That's very smart. I always think of obviously the Copacabana shot, but the player's opening. Because the player opens with the one or a 5-minute one, or revealing the world and the characters. So I always think of the player because it opens the film from the start.
Yeah, and they're talking about the shot in Touch of Evil.
Yeah,
and, like that's. And also, it's just so funny that opening shot. Like, this is a club in the Valley. This isn't Studio 54, but to them, this is their Studio 54. Like, and it's just so energetic and alive. And but I keep thinking about being an actor in one of those scenes, or even the dance scene later on in the film when they're it's like they are so committed. And you hear stories about how Burt Reynolds he was like, oh, this is horrible, I can't believe, fired his agents allegedly about putting him in this movie. And sometimes you don't realize when you're in it that you're in something so good.
Yeah. There's a lot of tension on set from what I read from interviews between PTA and Burt Reynolds. I mean, you have two different worlds. We have Burt Reynolds, old Hollywood, just like how film's changing to videotape in the industry. In the movie, Hollywood's changing. We have a new young hotshot. PTA's 27 years old when he's making this movie.
Yeah.
It's his second film. Burt Reynolds has been around. He's worked with everybody, telling stories of James Dean and Marlon Brando on sets. And, you know, from what I understand from interviews from both sides, Burt's was always saying like, oh, why won't you let me ad-lib? Why don't you let me go off script? Because you let other people go off script.
Allegedly, he came in the first day doing an Irish brogue, an Irish accent.
Really?
He shot the first day with an Irish accent, and they were like, no. And like, that is like, hey, guy. Like, I just love that was like, he thought his character should have that. And then after that first day, he threw it away.
Yeah, tons of tension. And then there was an almost scuffle fight between PTA and Burt Reynolds in the backyard during one of the sequences.
Kind of like the Mark Wahlberg scene where they get into a scuffle at the end of the movie.
That's exactly. And so, like, basically, after they got in this little fight, not an actual fist fight, but argument in the backyard of the house, things kind of they cooled down between them. But in a way, you could argue that, like, maybe PTA was fueling it because the next day they shot when Dirk Diggler and Jack get in the fight in the backyard by the pool.
Was that the next day?
Next
after
day
this?
of shooting.
Wow.
So I don't know, was he trying to like do that director thing and manipulating him? I doubt it. Who knows? But it's like Kubrick did that on The Shining and so many other films as well.
Well, you guys work on films though. Like, how long does it take to find your way of shooting? Like, you know, like, oh, maybe I'm going to try psychological warfare with my actors, or maybe I'm going to try this way. Like, how long does it take you to find your own way of doing things in your own language?
Well, every actor's different. Every actor has a different method and preparation. It's a matter of giving them the space to prep however they want on a film that that dropped this year that we worked on. Each actor had a different prep. Like, one actor was listening to headphones, didn't want anyone to talk to him. He had made a playlist, and he just wanted to be left alone while he listened to this music and prepped right before we went into the scene. And another actor went upstairs just to be by themselves as well. But what's similar is it's a matter of like giving them the space to be comfortable, because every actor has a different process. Like, actors have different ways of crying, for example. Some actors, what they do is they'll pinch their hands.
Yeah.
And they'll create pain to help with the emotions. And some actors tap into the emotion inside their head. They'll think of a memory or something painful. Or some actors will get into the actual, like, the real headspace of the character. So every process is different. And it's not a matter of like, how do I strategize talking to the actor? It's about how do I work within the actor's style of prep and work.
But also, it's a time thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
We work on very low
make our
budget
days.
stuff,
Yeah.
you know, for now. Hopefully we'll get into big budget features. But when you have very limited time, there's only so much you can do. There's only so many avenues you can explore together with your actor. You know, you have call times where you have to get them in wardrobe and makeup. But, you know, I think when you're shooting for how many days with this, probably like 60, 70 days of shooting, a couple months, you get more time with the characters.
You're doing
and
a
with the
page
actors.
or two a day.
Yeah, like
we're
when you're-
doing
when
8
you're
pages
doing
a
like
day.
we're doing. It's like, all right, we got 2 takes. Let's figure it out.
We gotta get 28
man,
shots.
I used to act in Lifetime movies,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
those weren't.
Those shoot super
let's,
fast.
Let's really talk about the motivations of the character. Like, they're running and gunning.
They're
you
doing
know?
like 20
So
pages
it's different.
a day.
So I think
Yeah.
a time has something to do with it as well, and it also the type of the scene, the type of movie it is, and how in depth the character is. Because, you know, a short film or low budget feature, I think an actor will spend probably a little less time preparing for that. Sometimes they get the job like the week before, so there's not enough time to prep it. And especially when you have, and then you have someone like Burt Reynolds who's in the industry for 40, 50 years before he takes this role. You know, that's someone, like I said, they have completely different styles, and Burt is a legend. And you have to respect him to an extent, but also PTA knows this is my movie, and what I respect about him so much when it comes to like, how does this movie get made? Like, who wants to fund a movie like this? Just sticking to your guns and knowing that you have something special, and just like basically blunt force trauma. This is how we're gonna do it. This is how we're gonna make this movie, and this is what your character is gonna do. I think at the end of the day, if you believe in it enough, you'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Like Tarantino's advice, people ask him all the time, how do you become great at making movies? How do you do that? How do you become a great filmmaker? He's like, you have to love film.
Yeah.
If you love film, you can't make a bad movie at the end of the day.
Yeah,
If you
you
really love it.
Will it into existence.
That was the thing, and especially now where, you know, I get scared about younger generations going to, you know, the cinema or film. You need people like Paul Thomas Anderson that you can feel their love of film. Like that, you know, like even the Vista Vision for this new one, you're like, hell yeah, let's geek out. Like you're going to teach us.
Yeah.
Or when Sinners came out, you know,
Yeah.
like having that filmmaker walk through like the different like IMAX and this is this lens and that
Kubler
lens.
breaking down the different styles.
How
yeah.
cool is that?
Yeah.
Like, you know, like that gets people excited because we don't want just run of the mill anymore. We got to say why we want you there, what's the purpose of this and what a joy it is to be making something.
And this film, I mean, I love Blowout so much because of how De Palma showcased the analog aspect of making movies and recording, and he's cutting and splicing, and we're seeing all the tape running. And PTA does that in this film. We're looking into the lens. We're seeing how the lens zooms. We're seeing how the film runs through the camera and the editing process. And so whenever filmmakers can showcase the tangibility of old school filmmaking and the analog nature of it, it's always so fun. And I think my favorite shot is during the first porn scene, and then they pan to the camera, and we just slowly push into the lens until the lens is overwhelming the frame, and then we see that it's being zoomed in on Dirk's package. We don't see what he's zooming in on, but we know what they're zooming in on.
And then you're in the lens.
Then we're seeing it in the reverse through the glass, and it's just amazing to see. He's like showcasing the magic of making movies.
And who edited this? Was it Dylan Titchener?
I can pull that up. But what I think is so special about PTA, because you were talking about how he loves cinema. We all are, and he loves film. Even with the taboo of this era of porn film and filmmaking, he still treats it with reverence. He still treats it like a fine art and respects even these kinds of movies, which is so interesting and shows you how much he loves movies.
Yeah.
It was edited by. Hold on, let's get.
I love like Jack's line is once they squirt out their love juice, I want them to sit in it. They just have to know how the story ends.
Dylan Teichner.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
It was Titchener. Yeah, Teichner. Yeah.
Titchener.
Yeah.
Oh, he's in a bunch of great movies. Zero Dark 30, Brokeback Mountain. Whew, There'll Be Blood. So yeah, he's been his normal guy for a while.
Great editor.
But he did not do his last couple movies. He didn't do One Battle After Another.
He probably didn't do Phantom Thread.
Yeah, he hasn't worked with PTA since There'll Be Blood.
Jeez.
But still, Phantom Thread he did. Phantom Thread. He did not do One Battle After Another though.
And also the music of this movie, from top to bottom, the music. I remember when this came out, I had the CD. Kids, we used to use a thing called CDs, and then it was so successful they had a volume 2. They had volume 1 and volume 2, and I was re-listening to the soundtrack yesterday, and I remember at the time there were so many things that I had never, those songs that I didn't hear, like that wasn't my language, and they were all bops. And like one of the best scenes, which you guys were mentioning earlier, was the Alfred Molina scene, which starts with Night Ranger's Sister Christian, and then goes to Rick Springfield's Jesse's Girl, and these are both like bops, like da-da-da, and it's the most intense acting, and you have this little Asian kid throwing little firecrackers off in the background, and I mean, just the music in that scene alone, and I just so want to know, did he write that with those songs in mind?
He had to have, because Molina's singing to those songs. So,
or that could have been on set, because like Molina dropped so much weight for this one scene.
It depends on, I think, what you get credits, what songs you get the rights to.
Yeah.
Because usually, like, I feel like when you're writing a screenplay, sometimes some filmmakers, I think people who are really specific, like Scorsese and PTA,
Edgar Wright,
they probably write, like, I want this song.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like when Scorsese's developing Goodfellas, he's talking with the writer during the film, and they're talking about the scene where De Niro smokes the cigarette. He's like, I'm about to kill Maurice. And he tells the writer, write down Cream. And he's like, what do you mean Cream? Just write down Cream. And then he later found out, he's like, he's thinking about the song Cream. He's going to put in that sequence. So I think auteurs, like, they can see the movie in their head so strongly. I'm guessing, PTA, it's his second feature. He's got ideas for songs, but maybe he can't get the ones he wants. So I wouldn't know.
I saw a great story about why the young guy is doing firecrackers and setting off firecrackers in the apartment. And so this was Thomas Jane said this on the Rich Eisen show. They asked him, like, where did the firecrackers come from? So apparently, like a week before they shot that scene, PTA was at a house party, and that guy, the actor in that scene, the little dude, he was at this party. He was just some guy, and he was setting off the firecrackers. And so he asked, can we get that guy to do that in this scene? Because it adds this crazy amount of tension.
And they're all so cracked out. They're pulling this thing over where they're trying to rip Alfred Molina off, and just that ramps up just the paranoid delusion that they're already in, and they're all sweaty. It's just... That scene is so like it's a standalone little segment of the movie.
Yeah, and once you see that the bodyguard has a gun on his hip, you're like, every firecracker is like a possible gunshot. But they filmed the scene over a few days and got to the point where the actors were so used to the firecrackers that they stopped reacting to them.
Oh,
so
really?
they stopped like jerking, and so what they had to do is they had to come up with new sounds to scare the actors during the scenes. So they would just come up with anything like that would make a loud noise, and they would try to do their best to try and get the actors to react to the sounds, because they started becoming unfazed by the firecrackers.
That's so
Yeah.
awesome.
I think one of the coolest shots in the whole movie is during that sequence, and it's like a 2-minute shot on Dirk, and Mark is just zoned the fuck out. And I'm watching it the other night because I was giving it a rewatch. I'm like, oh, he's not cutting the camera at all, and it's like this is a really interesting shot. And then I learned some background on it where Mark didn't even know he was being filmed at the time. He was just exhausted because they were shooting that, like you said, for like 2 days straight. And they just rolled on him because he was just so out of it. And that's like literally just Mark just being so rocked from filming.
Burnt
for 2
out,
days.
yeah.
burnt
You
the
get
fuck
that. It looks like he's just like fucking numb for a second, and then he's like comes to, and then he's just like rubbing his eyes. It's an amazing moment.
That's what I love about these kind of films is that the audience is able to bring so much to it as well. Like on that, there's no dialogue, right? It's just push it, but we feel what he is going through in that moment. And you know, we're probably seeing him, the actor, being just exhausted, but the audience, doesn't need to be dialogue. We know exactly what this character is probably thinking at this point of like, you know, it's an actor would tend to overdo that scene, and that's why like I was shocked Mark Wahlberg throughout the entire film underplays things for the most part.
Yeah, I think he's always been a great actor, and I think there might be some misconception about his talent. He's always had the talent. If you watch this movie, if you watch Fear, doing that when he was like 24, he's always had it. He just, generally chooses action movies, big movies.
He's a business now.
Yeah, so it's like he's not always stretching those muscles, but he's always had the talent.
Did you guys know that Robert Downey Jr.'s father is in Boogie Nights?
Really? Who is he?
So Robert Downey Sr. who's a filmmaker as well as has cameos in a bunch of movies. He plays the studio manager where Dirk is trying
No
to...
way!
Yeah.
Oh my god!
And did you know Michael Penn is in this movie? Sean Penn's brother. He plays the guy at Sound City recording studio that's like, pump up my vocals.
Oh, the engineer,
yeah.
yeah.
He's the engineer.
He also did the music for this film, but that's Sean Penn's brother, Michael Penn, who had a solo career in the 90s in his own music. And I always find it hysterical because I always want to know if those scenes are improv when it comes to the music aspect of that.
I think when you got Riley, you're improving because
Yeah.
he's so good at improv. We've seen so with his comedies in the last 20 years. But there's so many great lines like, that's not an MP, that's a YP. He's like, I don't know this music mumbo jumbo lingo. YPMP.
So him and like PTA are, really good friends, right? And Magnolia, he plays the cop. But he said that even came about because they would just like on weekends F around and be like, shoot things, like, oh, you're going to play a cop. Yeah. And he would follow John C. Reilly around and they would just mess around
Yeah,
with
there's
cameras
footage
and
of that,
stuff. Yeah.
of them. He's filming
Oh, is it
Riley.
real? I've never seen the
There's
footage.
footage where they shot like a little short of Riley like entering someone's home as a cop with a friend of theirs. Like they acted like they did a little test scene. It was yeah.
Was it like the Super 8 footage?
Yeah,
they did?
exactly. Yeah,
Gotcha.
you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
because we were obsessed with Magnolia when it came out. We
Yeah,
watched like
me
everything
too.
about it.
Well, dude, right after Magnolia, I was living in the Valley at the time, and there was a Wells Fargo on Ventura Boulevard between Sepulveda and Van Nuys.
Sure.
And I pull in there. It's a Friday night, going to get some cash, and I notice this dude with a camera. And the dude looks familiar because I was so obsessed with Magnolia that I knew he had a tiny little part in Magnolia. Mm-hmm. And then I look up and then it's like, there's PTA at a Wells Fargo. It's night. It's like 7:30, 8 o'clock at night. And it's just the two of them. They're messing around. And I'm like, holy shit. I immediately in my head, I'm like, oh, they're just testing things out. They're just like being like film nuts. And I roll down my window. I go, Magnolia rules. And that's it. And then I just took off. I'm like, ah!
And you crashed your car.
And PTA ran away.
And him and Tarantino, I think they were huge impacts in showing what LA really was to the audiences. Because LA was presented as Beverly Hills, palm trees, and
The beach.
Yeah, the beach.
Yeah.
Like this is what LA looks like. But two guys who grew up in the Valley, they're like, this is what LA is. It's concrete. It's Vons everywhere. It's banks and it's
Michael Mann.
Michael Mann, same
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
You're not seeing palm trees in this movie. You're not seeing the beach in this movie. You're seeing what LA really is. And if you live in LA, you're like, and you watch movies like this, or you watch Reservoir Dogs or Pulp Fiction, you're like, that's Los Angeles, not driving down Rodeo Drive or going to Malibu. This is LA. Yeah,
That's
Nightcrawler.
a great LA movie too.
You know what I mean?
We live in Highland Park, which is where they shot all of Reservoir Dogs, and it's so cool because
The
like every
entirety
time
of
I go for a walk, like where Mr. Pink steals the car and pulls the woman out is like a coffee shop where we drive past every day. I walk past all the time. The trains are still there. The train tracks are still there. So it's so cool to live in a spot where you recognize so many landmarks from all movies. Like the first time I saw Nightcrawler, I was like, because we lived in the Valley back then. We lived in Sherman Oaks, and like half that movie I feel like is in the Valley or in the hills.
Absolutely.
So it's just so cool. But then with this movie, it's like the cliche Valley shopping mall or the little mini malls of like there's a donut shop and a laundromat and like another donut shop and another laundromat. Like that's like every complex in LA.
Strip mall.
Yeah.
I mean, there's real life that happens in this version of, or their version of Los Angeles, you know? And obviously he grew up in the Valley and was around filmmaking because his dad was Goulardi,
yeah. He was a
right?
radio announcer and TV announcer. That's why his company's called Goulardi Pictures. That was his character that his dad played. But what I've noticed about PTA movies and his style of what he likes to do for writing characters, and not the adaptations, not the pinch-on adaptations he's done, but his original stories, he loves small business owners.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Burt Reynolds is a small business owner. Barry in Punch Drunk Love, small business owner. You see it a lot in Licorice Pizza. Cooper Hoffman's character.
Think about it, because once you get to be a huge conglomerate, that's not interesting anymore.
Yeah.
You know, like it's always interesting the underdog or somebody looking to get to the next level. You know, like that's why I even love when I listen to like celebrity memoirs or something. You know, it's always the journey to get to where they are now. You know, that journey usually is the interesting part of it, not the once they're there.
Even like There Will Be Blood. Daniel Plainview is a small business owner at first.
Yeah.
Maurice's nightclub.
They're all small business owners.
It opens into small business in the nightclub.
Yeah, because when you drive through LA, when you drive through the Valley, all you see are fucking small businesses everywhere. It's all these people, thousands of people. They have little storefronts. That's like the lifeblood of the economy of LA. And I think he recognizes that, so he loves to write characters who own a business or they have something unique. And you can do like when you come up with a concept of a guy who sells plungers, that's a really interesting starting point for a character.
Who finds a little piano.
Yeah,
Licorice Pizza, a waterbed.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
But that's why he's such a great writer. He can write about anything.
Yeah. No, I think the when I first moved to Los Angeles, you know, it's like everybody moves here with a dream. You know, it's like that, and it's tough because you live in a town of crushed dreams. You know, so there's sometimes this undercurrent of not outright anger, but a frustration that you feel in these towns because you go to these small businesses and usually the people at your restaurant, the people at your dry cleaner, you know, they're trying and they're not succeeding, you know? And that's what I also find interesting is not having a dream be realized, but having a dream not be realized and what that does to you. And in this with Dirk Diggler, you know, he wants to be a big, bright, shining star.
Big shining star.
Yeah.
And man, you can see so many recent films just pulled so many great things from this movie. I mean, the Maxine in Pearl, like those sequences of Maxine in the mirror, Pearl in the mirror, it just reminds me of Dirk Diggler talking to himself in the mirror too.
But it goes back to Raging Bull.
I want to be a star, but like the whole concept, like I'm going to be a a bright shining star. Like that's literally what Dirk is saying to himself.
We always say filmmakers are always trying to be PTA, and even when movies you don't expect, and they most of them, the good ones, they'll admit it. Like so, Everything Everywhere All at Once. Daniel Kwan said he wanted to make a movie that started like The Matrix and ended like Magnolia.
Really?
That's what he said about writing that script. And then Weapons, Zach Cregger was like, I wanted to do like a Magnolia type movie. I think that his influence is so strong and palpable with filmmakers in the 20th century. And I don't think that many younger people are that aware of the pull he has as an artist and a writer and how influential he is in terms of filmmakers trying to do something great. Oh my God, Boogie Nights has this thing. Let me use that in this script.
You know, I always tell my audience too, is that when you're young, you pick a band or you pick a director or you pick that and you get the pleasure and sometimes the heartbreak of following them for the rest of your life. And that
Fortunately, Nolan never misses.
but you know what? Like with this, it's been so wild because I remember when like Boogie Nights came out, and all of a sudden, 25 years goes like that. And to see, that, and thinking about all the memories I've had with all this man's films, and I remember thinking at the time, like, what's this guy going to do in the future? What's he going to do in the future? And it's like your favorite band when they switch music styles. Like I remember Radiohead at first. Like I wanted, like after the Bends, I wanted another album like the Bends. Then OK Computer came out, and I was like, holy crap, that's amazing. And then after that, you want another album like OK Computer, and they switched to an album like Kid A, which is completely different, and started like experimenting with electronic stuff. And I didn't really, at first, it wasn't for me, and then as I kept listening, and then as years go by, it's one of my favorite albums. And PTA is the same way. I wanted him to make films like Boogie Nights and Magnolia for the rest of his life. That's what I wanted. And then you go to Punch Drunk Love, which is okay, but he's starting to get experimental in ways. And then There Will Be Blood. I'm like, wait, we're doing a period piece? Like a period piece? And like, the opening sequence of that film, but I want John C. Reilly to come out and be goofy. I want that. And you realize, oh, he's an artist. And then you catch up to those films and you like, oh God, this guy is working on this whole other level that I almost pigeonholed him into films like Boogie Nights and Magnolia.
Yeah, and then Phantom Thread, we're following a seamstress designer.
So good.
And Mushrooms. Like,
Who
what
does
is
this?
what?
Who can do this?
He understands how to craft, and especially with the directing, because Phantom Thread, you see it's the same approach, lots of one-ers, really great movements of the camera, but it's not as energetic as something like Boogie Nights. And There Will Be Blood, again.
It's so intimate.
Yeah, it's a different approach, but the same style. Don't forget, Boogie Nights is a period piece.
Yeah, you're
a
right.
period piece.
But I always tell my audiences, like, I always want to watch something where denim has been invented.
Yeah,
But
that's the thing with LA. It was built in the 70s, the Valley. So then you can shoot in LA. And you shoot it in the 90s, but it's supposed to be in the 70s, but it can still feel like the 90s.
But to your point, the only one I'll forget, like Nolan. I'll go there with Nolan. Like I once watched him speak about the sound design in Dunkirk, and I was just like, oh, like that's another one where I was like, this dude is working on such a whole other level that he was like, mind being blown. And like, I know it's like, people might be listening or watching and going, wow, you guys are really dick riding PTA. Yeah, it's a pleasure to.
All day.
I will do that all day,
Since
every
I was
day.
17.
Coconut oil,
Do you
baby.
know how easy it is to hate something? And do you know how hard it is to love something? So if you find something you love, you better dick ride that all day long.
Oh yeah.
There's worse filmmakers to be obsessed with for sure, and I think it's it's rewarding to be a lover of PTA's
And
movies.
people are obsessed with some pretty bad filmmakers nowadays,
are.
I will say.
Well, there's a fandom for everybody.
Yeah.
And I think there's like there's beauty in that. But at the same time, I'm always looking for somebody that's pushing me, even my mind or my thought process ahead of it. And I think sometimes there's a misperception of like, oh, is he so flashy with his work? It's like, no, the story's there. It's always in service to the story and the characters.
PTA movies, they feel different. There's not that many filmmakers left, I think, that make you feel like you're watching something special. You really escape. You're watching something that's actually alive. You feel alive when you're watching it. It feels alive when you watch a PTA movie. I think filmmaking's become, I love movies, but we talk about it a lot. Like around 2010, 2015, movies started to change, and a lot of them just look the same. A lot of them feel the same. A lot of them have the same storylines. A lot of factory filmmaking. A lot of copy these kind of beats. The structure is just too apparent. Archetypes are too common, and aesthetically they just feel almost always the same. But when you're watching PTA movies or Scorsese movie, Nolan movie, it's different. You feel like it's a different reality. It's a different world. And I'm afraid to lose that once some of these greats leave us over time. But I think as long as they stay around and people just love cinema and love their movies, we'll have people like that forever. But still, PTA is one of those guys, like when we saw one battle after another. Within 10 seconds, you're like, this is different stuff. This is a different kind of filmmaker.
Yeah, and he's always avoided structures and rules. When you think about like what people say a movie has to have a villain character. Who's the villain of Boogie Nights? Who's the villain of Magnolia?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Who's the villain? Paul Dano is an antagonist to Daniel Plainview, but oftentimes his characters, Freddie Quell, who's his, I mean, the master's not his villain. It's not his intact. His characters, he's all about the character and what journey they go on. And so he often avoids what like people say structurally a movie or a screenplay should have. And he follows his gut and he follows where the characters take him. And oftentimes I think it works great when your character can be their own villain and can be their own antagonist. When you have someone like Daniel Plainview, or you have someone like with Dirk and the road he chooses and the path he goes down into self-destruction, oftentimes that's more interesting than having a villain to stand up against who's trying to stop you.
Yeah. But that's why, like, watching Weapons, though, with Zach Kreger, like, that's another one. I'm like, oh, this guy's really exciting. Like, I'm really excited. And, you know, I was watching his Letterboxd for favorites, and he picked Boogie Nights on one of them, you know? And I was like, oh, you know, you can clearly see the influence. But it's so great to have that kind of excitement about certain filmmakers that you felt initially with PTA. Or who's the female director? I don't know if you guys watched Severance, but she was the
cinematographer?
Cinematographer who got to direct that what's that her cheeky I forgot the episode name, but it's one of my favorite episodes.
Jessica Lee Gagne.
That's it. Yeah. Where I'm like, ooh, she's one to watch, man.
She's
like
incredible.
She's really good.
Yeah. I mean, Boogie Nights in general is incredible. So is in PTA. And I mean, this is a great episode, guys. We had a
That
lot
flew
of fun.
by.
Is this done?
Yeah,
No,
we're
I want to
over.
talk about it for like 3 more hours.
Wow, we're an
I
hour
thought it was
in.
going to be the length of There Will Be Blood. Come on. Like, what are you talking about?
Ryan
man.
Bailey from So Bad It's Good. Where can everyone find your show, pal?
Yeah, just So Bad It's Good with Ryan Bailey, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. We got a YouTube channel. We got a Patreon. We got an Instagram account. Check it out. There's tons of episodes, so just see if anything suits you. And I think you guys are going to be coming on soon,
Yeah,
hopefully.
we're going to do spooky season, like
Spooky.
horror
Oh, yeah.
episode, I think.
We
with
love
Spooky
horror.
Studio.
We love it.
I mean, could PT ever do just a flat-out horror?
I mean, in a lot of ways, there are horror elements to some of his movies. I mean, like some
Sure.
sequences in There Will Be Blood are horrific. You know what I mean? Whether it's, I think, not necessarily like a monster, but I mean, he commits murder, which is a great kind of horror sequence, that scene in the fire. And also, I think the opening sequence when, you know, he's like the tunnel that he digs out, the hole, that's like a monster that he has to overcome in a way. That's a terrifying sequence in a way. I think he would kill horror if he ever did it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
He crushed action with, man.
But he's
there's
always
so
done
much
action, though.
there's so
That's
much
what I hear.
action.
I hear there's a car sequence that's going to blow my mind.
You never see anything
God.
like it, man. Never see
Visually,
anything
one of the
like
most
it.
stunning things I've ever
My
seen.
jaw
in a
was on the
movie.
floor, and it's just a car
chase
chase, but the
sequence.
way he filmed it.
But anyway, I do want to say, so if anybody out there listening or watching this, we got to go see it opening weekend. We got to give them the box office. We need films like this to be made. We need his creative vision to remain intact, to be able to do what he wants to do, even though I think he would find ways to be brilliant with whatever restrictions were placed on him.
Yeah.
But I want him to not be box office challenged with this.
I agree.
I think this has the potential to make. It could hit 400 million if it gets great word of mouth.
The word of mouth's incredible right now. We gave it a glowing review. We did a spoiler-free episode last week, so check that out. Ryan, thank you so much.
Thank you guys.
for
I've been looking
coming
forward to this.
on the show. Do all the things, guys. Become a member at patreon.com/Raiders of Lost Podcast. Subscribe on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. Follow us there and engage with the content. That's how we get the junkets, how we get the early screenings, how we get the access. Everyone leaving those comments and likes and shares. Be sure to also go to movieposters.com. Use our coupon code Raiders10 at checkout today to get 10% off your entire order from our great sponsors over there. They provide us with all of our posters on our sets. And we also have an affiliate link with them, as you all know. Use that link in the episode description of this podcast or our social media bios. We'll get a commission. You get 10% off and an awesome poster. It's a win-win for everybody. In the meantime, take care, everyone.
See you next time.
touch.
You got the power. This episode was executive produced by our chosen one patrons, Nicholas Martin and Jacob Kossler. Raiders of the Lost Podcast is a Mirror Image production.